Warriors, it's your old pal Jeff, back again here in the wasteland or the soon to be wasteland to tackle another chapter in the saga of our friend Mad Max, or the very soon to be Mad Max, I should say. Maybe he's not quite mad yet. We last left off at the bottom of chapter 14, which brings us to chapter 15. And Max resigns. Max resigns from his post. That's it. He's not going to be on the force anymore. He's afraid, the only thing that keeps him from being one of them is his bronze badge, and that's no good for Max anymore. And so now Max is off with his family to catch a break, to catch a breather. We should change the lighting here. Something a little darker for foreboding what is to happen, what is to come in chapter 15, perhaps. The days that followed assumed a dream-like quality. The weather was spectacular, even for early summer. Long days at the beach drifted into lazy nights at the campsite. Max and Jess took Sprague and traveled with when the fancy took them. Swam when their bodies demanded it, camped when they were too tired to go on, and made love when the desire was upon them. Ow, ow, ow! By the way, Sprague is the name. That's like an Australian colloquialism for a young child, for a toddler. Toddler is the same word as Sprague, apparently, accordingly. They were fantasy times, times of laughter which ate up the misery and fear of the weeks before. For the first time in years, Max and Jesse knew what it was like to be free of the anxiety which had become a part of their daily diet. They washed away their cares in the crystal sea and foaming surf. They rebuilt their bodies with food and prepared around a campfire. Man, they said campfire about 3 times in this one little page. They repaired their minds with affection. Together, the 3 of them, in the hot little street van, meandered up and down the coast, in and out of the countryside, and swore that they would never go back. It was at some sleepy little beach, just miles of sand and a huddle of run-down shops, that it all began to fall apart. Max had pulled into a garage just off the highway to get a punctured tire repaired when Sprague started talking Jess into buying him an ice cream. But in the movie, Sprague is really, Sprague can't speak yet. He literally cannot talk. So, Jesse, she's like, I think Sprague has convinced me to buy him an ice cream. It's more like Jesse's talking, but maybe perhaps Sprague is a little bit older in this narrative and actually lobbied for Jesse to take him into getting some ice cream. Finally, she gave in, leaving Max to wait for the tire. She had taken, leaving Max to wait for the tire. She had, there's no comma there. She had taken the van down to the beach to find a cafe. Max would never have let her go if he had known what was in the workshop. A beautiful bike standing in the corner with its front wheel chalked up, a black superbike gleaming in the dim light. Though it was disabled at the moment, there was no mistaking the enormous power which it could deliver. In itself, there was nothing strange about that. It was just a marvelous piece of machinery to find in such a 2-bit garage. But the bike had one unusual feature, an intricate design carefully painted on the side of the fuel tank. If Max had seen it, he would have recognized it instantly as the same design tattoo on the cheeks of the bikies out front of the halls of justice. So that's that little circle with the line going through it, right? That's the sign of the Knight Rider or whatever, the Arcolite gang. He might have guessed that the bike belonged to the Toecutter. But Max didn't bother going into the workshop. He sat outside in the sun instead and sucked on a bottle of lemonade, waiting while the slow-witted grease monkey went out to repair the tire. Fun trivia fact, that slow-witted grease monkey would end up being one of the co-writers on Mad Max Fury Road from the movie. Meanwhile, Jesse was swinging into the run-down town, slowing to examine the peeling shop fronts. She noted a small knot of men in leather standing around their bikes on the other side of the road, but paid them no attention. She was more interested in a screen door swinging in the gentle breeze, and above it, a faded sign for long since forgotten brand of soft drink. She pulled the van to the side of the road and threw the door open. Her long, sun-tanned legs swinging out of the van brought appreciative glances and knowing looks from the 6 or 7 bikies standing almost opposite of her. Ignoring the smiles and stares, she quickly walked around to the other door and lifted Sprague out of his seat. This is actually built up pretty well. This is pretty scary what is happening, at least in my opinion. That is a little scary. Together they strolled into the darkness, their eyes straining to adjust to the dimness. Finally, they finally picked out in a corner an old man. Wait, finally, they picked out in a corner an old man sitting in a soiled white apron. Jessie looked around Jessie looked around her in wonder. Not since she was a kid had she been in a shop like this. So accustomed she had been to supermarkets and fast food diners, she had forgotten. Wow. So accustomed, wow, these sentences. So accustomed she had been to supermarkets and fast food diners, she'd forgotten there used to be places where plastic, steel, and chrome were unknown. Intrigued, she ordered an ice cream for Sprague as he stretched his tiny hand up for it. She turned around and walked from the store, trying to etch its features into her memory. Outside in the sunshine, she stopped dead. The bikies were lounging around her van, clutching beer cans in their hands and obviously waiting for some fun. She drew Sprague tighter to her. "Well, cream my daddy's strides," Mudguts began. "Look what's turned up for dinner." "Main course and dessert," Kundalini added. The others, Clunk, Diabando, Bubba Zanetti, and the Toecutter, all laughed uproariously. "I see what I like, and I like what I see," Bubba said with a leer. Jessie tried her best to ignore them. She caught between going back into the store and trying to force her way to the van. Suddenly, Mudguts began to crow like a rooster. "Ah, ah, ah!" And this was the cue for the rest of them to start mimicking barnyard animals. Sprague laughed loudly and waved at them with his free hand. Jessie took the initiative. "Come on, Sprague. Let's leave our friends in the farmyard and go back and find Daddy." She took his ice cream, swung him up into her arms, and moved away from the store door. Mudguts took a step towards her. "Pay no attention to them, sweetness. It is I who loves you and lusts after your sweet body." Me too, yelled Kundalini, and they roared at his own joke. These are not the voices I used last time. I don't remember what I said last time. Jessie hesitated. The Toecutter was propped on the bonnet, not even bothering to look at her, picking his fingernails and smiling to himself. Jessie approached and tried to open the door. His hand flashed out and grabbed the handle, squeezing her fingers off. For the first time, he looked at her. Jessie tried again, but she couldn't prise his fist away. Suddenly, his fingers shot out and grabbed her round the waist of the hand in which she was holding Sprague's ice cream. So we know that, he's forcing her hand holding the ice cream into his mouth, and he does that like sexual little tongue thing, trying to be provocative to her, and she pushes it into his face. He held it firm for a moment, and then with his eyes fixed on her, he pulled the ice cream towards him and took a giant lick from the top of the cone. I would imagine, was that really written into the script? I feel like that was a moment that they captured during filming. Did the writer of this have dailies to look at when he was writing this? Because I don't know, it's weird. It feels like that this came secondary. Like they had known what was blocked out. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, how was this written in the script that this is based on? It was unmistakably salacious with the tongue. If there had been any doubt in Jesse's mind, it was totally dispelled by his grinning leer as he rolled his tongue over the specks of ice cream onto his lips. "You want to watch out for that tongue, honey. I've seen, oh, yeah. You want to watch out for that? I'm fucking up the voices. You want to watch out for that tongue, honey. I've seen him lick his eyebrows clean. Mudguts volunteered. The Toecutter was on his feet now, standing close to her. Jessie's mind was racing. A flicker of a grin broke across her face, and the Toecutter caught the seductive implications of it. They definitely watched the movie. He definitely watched the movie before he wrote this line. Gratified by her braces, it's very possible that the novelization might have been written based on the script, but after the movie had been filmed, and they used the script to flesh out the pages, since maybe there wasn't enough movie to create a full novelization. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I'm getting from the description here. I don't know. I just feel like so much of this is something that you find during production. You don't find that in the script. Gratified by her brazenness, he moved slightly closer, just as she smashed her knee into his groin. The Toecutter felt his testicles crash up into his stomach before the pain thundered across his brain. He buckled at the knees and slumped to the ground. The others stood in shocked disbelief. Jessie clambered into the van, threw Sprague across the seat, locked her door, and leant across and pushed the catch down on his. I guess, buckling him in. The Toecutter was struggling to his feet as the others charged for the van. Clunk was up on the bonnet, tearing and battering at the windscreen. But Jessie, hands trembling, already had the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, and Jessie, acting only by instinct, engaged that stick shift and jammed the accelerator to the floor. The van reared off, throwing Clunk aside like some toy, hurtling the Toecutter. Hurtling her, and blah, 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 blah. The van reared off, throwing Clunk aside like some toy and hurtling the Toecutter, still struggling with the door, to the ground. Jessie threw the vehicle into a wild U-turn. She narrowly missed a pillar supporting the veranda. Veranda, what a word. Of some decrepit store. What is a veranda? What the hell? Nah, hold on, I got to look up what veranda is. What is a veranda? I mean, I've heard that word before, but what is a veranda? Veranda. A veranda. Okay. So it's like a roofed. That's what a veranda is. I'm just going to show you a picture. Can you see that? It's like a roofed porch, kind of. That's basically what it is. Almost done broadcasting. Sorry. The veranda. It sounds like a lady. Veranda. Get over here, veranda. Supporting the veranda of some decrepit store, making Diabando, what a name. You shall be dubbed Diabando. Dive for cover and giving Kundalini, coming at the van, a very difficult target to aim for. He looped up on the side, wildly slinging a long length of chain, and yelled at the top of his voice. His face was a mask of fury, and he lashed at the careening van. We know what happens to Kundalini's hand, missing the windscreen and wrapping the end around the roof rack. He was whipped off his feet and was left sprawling in the dust, howling in pain, burying the lead of what's going to come. Jessie gave the motor all she had, barreling down the road and racing for Max. Sprague was in the seat next to her, bawling his eyes out, turning his face into a weepy mess. She bore down the bitumen. What is the bitumen? Now we got to look up what the bitumen is. What the hell is a bitumen? Bitumen. A bitumen is it's a viscous liquid. I don't know what the hell that is. All right, I don't know. I don't know. She bore down the bitumen with her heart pounding. I don't know. As she swung through the last curve and screeched to a halt, Max ran to meet her. Get in quick, she commanded. What's wrong? Just get in, for God's sakes, Max. I'll explain later, she said, her voice tinged with hysteria. But what about Max? Please! Quickly, he ran to the passenger side, shoved Sprague over between them, and slammed the door shut. Jessie gunned the motor, and the grease monkey ran towards them, screaming about their tire and yelling for payment. She disappeared into a cloud of gravel and dust. Several minutes later, as the attendant still stood in the dust, staring down the road after them, the Toecutter and his cohorts, except for Kundalini, roared to a stop next to him. That wagon, was it here? The Toecutter demanded. Yeah, sure, a couple with a kid. Where were they going? Quick. They left the spare I was fixing and didn't pay for it. God damn it. If I had known, goddamn if I know how to explain that. The Toecutter smacked him across the mouth. Psh, I asked where they were going. Answer. The kid nursed his split lip, began to protest, and then thought better of it. Said they were heading north. Maybe. What's going on anyway? The Toecutter didn't reply. Funny how that line made it into the movie, but the earlier exchange where Max says north, maybe, they put emphasis on that, later on when this scene happens. The Toecutter didn't reply. He just started up the road after the van, then slapped his glove across the tank of his borrowed bike, Kundalini's machine, and turned to the grease money. How long before you've got that bike of mine repaired? I don't know. A couple hours, maybe? The Toecutter leaned over, grabbed him by the shock of hair that hung over his forehead, and pulled his face close to his own. Less. You can do it in a lot less than that, especially if we're standing there to give you a hand, can't you? The kid nodded his head in mute agreement. I need the part. I'm waiting for the part. Well, where is this part? The Toecutter asked, emphasizing every word. I've ordered it. Honestly, I've ordered it. I sent it by the road. Well, I think it would be a good idea if you set off to meet them halfway and then drove back here like a fury, the Toecutter said, twisting the kid's hair until he saw tears to begin to pop from his eyes. The kid tried to nod his head again, and the Toecutter threw him away. Good. Now get working. He turned on Mudguts and Diabando. I'll wait here while you two go back and look after Kundalini. The Toecutter settled down in the shade of the office, helped himself to a beer, and began to plot the vengeance that he would wreak upon the woman who had humiliated him. Miles away, burning the road beneath her tires, Jessie had finished explaining the incident to Max. It's okay, Jess. Just some two-bit larrikins. Ooh, larrikins. What a word, a larrikin. Just some two-bit larrikins trying to stir up some action, and they got more than they bargained for. I'm proud of you, sweetie. I only wish I'd been there to see the guy go down when you need him, he said with the first ripples of laughter breaking out. Max, it's not funny. And they weren't just two-bit bikies. When the guy went down, I got a good look at his face. He had a tattoo on his right cheek like the Knight Rider. Max stopped laughing, feeling his stomach tighten and sweat break out on the palms of his hands. Seconds passed, and then he turned to Jessie. I think you can get a bit more out of this heat, can't you? She pressed her foot to the floor, concentrating on the road, trying to alleviate her fear by turning all of her attention to the van. The miles passed in silence. Even Sprague had fallen asleep. The two of them sat there, grim-faced, with the calm of the last 4 days shattered. Finally, Max pointed to the fuel indicator. This one time we don't want to run out of gas, he said flatly. Sure, Max. What will they do if they catch us and realize who you are? About the same as if they catch us and don't realize who I am, except they'll do it slower and they'll make us squirm longer. Jessie looked at him with all the love she could muster, not wanting to lose him now, praying to God she didn't even believe in that they might be spared. Praying to a God she didn't even believe in that they might actually be spared. Several miles farther on, Jessie saw the first signs indicating a gas station up the road. She kept the vehicle going at full bore, looking a little more often in the rearview mirror to check that no one was behind her. The last thing she wanted was to find herself rigged up to a petrol Bowser where the bikies caught up with them. They traveled past several more signs before actually seeing the station on the side of the highway, a rundown building with 2 pumps and not much else. Jesse was out of the van with the hose and the tank by the time the owner was through the front door. Max got out to stretch his legs, wandering around near the van, not taking his eyes from the road. As he neared the rear of the van, he noticed a long length of chain running from the rear roof rack and trailing into the dust behind the van. Realizing that it must have been the chain used by the bikie to try and smash Jess's windscreen, he walked over to it, intending to unravel it from round the roof rack. As he began working on it, he noticed a tangled clump hanging from the other end. Dun, dun, dun. He called to Jesse, who had the automatic pump sitting in the throat of the tank, and pointed out the chain. Together, they walked round towards the end of it. Jesse reached out first, and as she bent to pick up the tangle at the end, she uttered a low moan. "Oh my God," she whispered. Max was with her in a second, bending down to distinguish the dusty object wound in the chain. It was Kundalini's hand and part of his wrist. Ooh, good. That was good. Terry Hayes wrote this, right? Good job, Terry. That was great. Chapter 16. Max and Jess waited for the police to arrive, realizing that the bikies would be farther behind than they imagined. Max had deposited the hand in a plastic bag. They barely spoke as the minutes slipped by. At last, a battered police car pulled up into the drive. At the wheel was the semi-retired officer known throughout the force as the Dark One. So we see this scene in the movie. We see the Dark One written on the side of Max's patrol car at the beginning of Mad Max. But Mother Truckin', what was I going to say? It's never alluded to who the Dark One is. Is the Dark One Max? Is it not? Turns out the Dark One is actually Max's partner. They kind of imply that Jim Goose is the partner in the movie. And but it's this guy, the Dark One, who's kind of like Max's mentor, and he's kind of a badass, but he kind of, I don't know, he looks kind of like a guy out of Chips or something in the movie. The Dark One greeted Max and Jesse with a sort of understated warmth and quickly examined the contents of the bag. Jesse flew into a rapid explanation, punctuated by his nods, and then trailed off to look at the bag again. "Well," he said after a few seconds' pause, "as far as I'm concerned, it's lost property. And unless someone makes a claim on it, I say we can forget all about it." "Sounds okay to me," Max replied. "Of course, if that idiot is stupid enough to report it, you can charge him anyway as a result of what they tried to do to Jesse." "Sure, I'm certain they've already thought of that. We'll never hear from them. You can count on that." "What do you think, Jesse?" Max asked. "Well, I guess it's all we can do. But tell me, why do they call you the Dark One?" Oh, we get to find out why they call him the Dark One. This is amazing. I'm so excited to know the answer. He picked up his cap, scuffed his boots, and pulled the keys from his pocket. As he reached over to pick up the package, he looked up at her. "Sweetheart, when I was coming up, they reckoned I was the darkest, lowest, meanest man on the road. I guess they were right, because I'm also the oldest." He called. That's it. That's the end of him. I mean, that's his only. He called goodbye over his shoulder as he walked out into the heat and flies. Max took Jesse by the arm and steered her towards the door. So, if I had my druthers, if I ran the zoo over at HBO, I would make an HBO series about the Bronze, about the Breaker Squad, and it would star a Max getting recruited onto the force, training under the tutelage of the Dark One as they encounter these gangs and the nasty, vicious violence that occurs on the roads. That would be a friggin', and the either the first season or the series culminates. Maybe it's a mini series. Culminates with the story of Mad Max. He called goodbye over his shoulder. Right, we already said that. "Come on, honey. The more road we've got between us and the beach, the happier I'll be. You don't think after this they'll be coming after? You don't think after this they'll be coming after us, do you?" I'd have I'd have said that before. I'd have said before that there was a damn good chance that they were on our trail Right now, I'd say it's a certainty. Max walked round and got into the passenger seat, settling Sprague between them. As Jesse climbed in behind the wheel, he leaned over to the tray in the back. After rustling around for several minutes, he slipped a short-barreled pump-action shotgun out of its case and began to work its mechanism, sighting down the barrel, checking its trigger action, and finally loading the magazine with bulky, deadly shot. Max, can we go to someone for help? She pleaded. Out here, you got to be kidding. The only cop around for miles is the Dark One, and I wouldn't ask him to get involved in this sort of crap. He's too old, and he's deserved to live too much. Sorry, he's just. I just love it, like the Dark One. Yeah, he's just too old. I'm too old. He's too old. He's too old, and he's deserved to live too much to get wasted now. But we can't just let them hunt us down, she cried. We're not going to. We're going to keep heading north, staying on the minor roads, and then we're going to go spend some time just as long as we'd like at the farm. What farm? She asked, confused at this development. Well, it's sort of the Dark One's farm, or at least it's what his wife May lives. It's where his wife May lives now. Wow. Okay, so May is married to the Dark One, but in the movie, May is super old and the Dark One is a lot younger. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. So I guess the Dark One is supposed to be May's age. I mean, it's insinuated in the novelization, and you see how old she is in the movie. They never explain who she is really in the movie at all. So she says, well, it's sort of the Dark One's farm, or at least that's where his wife May lives now. Now that not that he spends much time there, they have a very friendly arrangement. When did he offer you that? I called him just before we left home, but it was going to be a surprise for you. I reckon you'll just love it. Oh, Max, she said, hugging him with relief, the unexpected chance to escape from the terror of the road. They'll give up after a while. They can't drive around forever searching the countryside hoping to find us. You watch. In a day or two, they'll have found something else to occupy their tiny minds. He hoped that he sounded more convincing to Jesse than he did to himself. Well, what are you doing with that thing? Well, what are you doing with that thing then? She said, this is the Jesse sounds so bad when I try to imitate her. She said, pointing at the shotgun in his hands, just a precaution, Jess. There's one thing that keeps me in one piece on the road. I never left anything to chance, and that, my love, is the way it's going to be. Now, how about driving? She moved the van onto the road, tramping the accelerator towards the floor and finding a comfortable 80 miles an hour to sit on. Only now and again did she glance in her rear view mirror, but the road behind her was deserted. Although there was no way of knowing as they pulled out of that gas station, the Toecutter was greeting the kid as he stepped out of his ute with the part. Okay. Oh, with the part, right. The ute, to get it. So the grease monkey got the part. Okay, get to it, kid. I want to be on the road within the hour, he barked. The Toecutter followed him into the workshop, but returned to the door almost immediately as Mudguts and Diabando, accompanied now by Johnny the Boy, roared into the driveway. They had barely dismounted when the Toecutter demanded a report. Where's Kundalini? In the hospital. The doctor said he's going to be okay, except for his hand, of course. Oh, that was Mudguts. I changed Mudguts again. Mudguts said with a chortle. The Toecutter thumped him round the ear. Don't laugh, you son of a bitch. Where did you find Johnny? He came down there looking for us. Good. We're going to have us some sport. Good. We're going to have ourselves some sport as soon as this cretin gets the front fork replaced. The Toecutter walked back and stood over the kid, watching him struggle with the bike, barking instructions, and finally bending down to take charge of the repair job. Less than 40 minutes later, it was done. The Toecutter wheeled his bike out of the darkness of the shop. Outside, the sun picked up the chrome work, throwing it back in bright glinting stars. That's a great line. Okay, everyone ready? They climbed onto their machines, pulling on their gloves, checked their instruments, and worked out their throttles to deafen the mechanic with the roar. With the front wheels rearing and the plumes of dust in their trail, they hit the road, heading north. Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it for today. 2 more chapters in the books. We all know what's coming. It's going to be tragic. Some slight variations from the movie, as we can see as well. So that's again, it's so rewarding to read the book, the novelization, and find that stuff. I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsor, Riot Stickers. RiotStickers.com. If you need 1,000 stickers, Riot Stickers, you just go to riotstickers.com. Link is down in the motherfucking, that's terrible. Link is down in the description. Go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. Stickers are printed on vinyl. They have a UV coating that protects from the sun. You really can't go wrong with Riot Stickers here at the Frumess channel, riotstickers.com, because Riot Stickers, we are the mother friggin' bomb. So check out that deal. You're not going to find that deal anywhere else. 1,000 stickers for $79. If I didn't mention for it, 79 doubloons. Okay. Let's play the theme song, and we will see you next time out on the open road, Bronze. Look at me now, Bronze. Look at me now. He's wet right out of his skull, man. What?